Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you want in the body and mind you want. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of freedom with food and your body, you're in the right place. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here, for listening. I hope you are all doing well. We are going to talk today all about satisfaction. And it's that really elusive feeling or state of being that all of us as humans constantly are looking for. And it's often why many of us turn to excess food or drink to find comfort and try to find that sense of satisfaction. Food can produce that momentary satisfaction, and so it's so easy to become entangled in overeating to try to get into the state of satisfaction, if even for a moment. So keep listening to learn how to find satisfaction and feel satisfied without using food or overeating. I wanted to add one quick thing before we get started. I'm listening to some of the financial struggles out there, and I get it. So if you are a podcast listener, I am offering 20% off working with me to help end your binge eating, overeating, your emotional eating, and get you into the body you want to be in, to lose the weight for good. If you've been considering working with me, now is the time. I offer 4 online plans that you can take a look at on my website, HEATHERPROGO.com, under the services tab. And then under that, it would be the choose a plan for weight loss and health coaching. That's where it lists all the plans that I offer. There's 4 of them, all with different components and all for different values. And for example, plan 1 is contact weekly via email for weekly check-ins, accountability, and you get a new plan every week to help you follow each week and access to me throughout the week. And much more that goes along with that plan that you can read about on the website. But typically this plan is $219 per month. But as a podcast listener and 20% off, your cost is $176 per month. It's a really big savings. I've never done it before, but I don't think we've ever been in a economy like this before. So I offer other plans that are even less in money and will also reflect that 20% discount if you are a podcast listener. I also have lowered my one-on-one phone coaching sessions to $85 for a 50 to 55 minute session. And I am now offering a 25 to 30 minute session, which I've never offered before, for $50. I'm hoping that by trying to meet you all where you are at, where many of us are at in this new economy, that you can still get the help you know can help you get you going again, keep you accountable, and get you the results for life that you have been struggling for so long. I know the struggle with binge eating, emotional eating, overeating, as well as that yo-yo dieting cycle and the shame of losing and then gaining over and over, not to mention the exhaustion behind all that. And I really can help you change this and create that food freedom life and get you into the body you want to be in and make it sustainable. This offer will go on for the next month or so. We are right now in July. So I'm thinking the next month, maybe into August. I'm not sure yet. So if you've been wanting to get some coaching and help to lose the weight for good, get in touch now. You can email me at info@heatherheinen.com. Remember, Heinen is spelled Heynen. And in that email, let me know that you're a podcast listener in order to receive the discount. So have you ever found yourself overeating or binging, and all the while you're kind of hoping to feel satisfied, to really get that sense of, that satisfaction, only to kind of realize that satisfaction really does remain elusive? You really can't get that sense of satisfaction. You may have thought that the next bite would do the trick, or perhaps the one after that, and then eventually you kind of reach this point. You think you're going to reach this point of contentment where you could stop. And sometimes You might have even purchased various foods. I know this was me when I was doing a lot of binging. You try to get all this different variety of foods because you're kind of unsure of which one is finally going to provide that elusive satisfaction feeling that you're seeking. You're kind of on this quest, hoping that one of these foods is going to be the answer. And like I said, for me, this was a really common pattern. I know for many of my clients, this is a common pattern, whether at the grocery store or the convenience store, which are many of our frequented binge food destinations. I'd pick up a couple of sweet treats and a couple of salty snacks. I'd kind of have this anticipation that once I tasted them, I'd immediately know if they were what I craved. And however, this approach rarely led to I don't think it ever led to the desired outcome. Initially, the first item might taste good, but I'd either finish it without feeling satisfied or kind of grow bored and then switch to something else. And the cycle would continue with the second item, and I'd just kind of keep going. Satisfaction remained elusive, and I'd cease eating not because I was satisfied, but often because I had overindulged to the point of extreme physical discomfort. And I'd have to engage in sort of this mental battle, wrestling with myself to stop eating when all I really wanted was more food. It was that challenging inner conflict that I know many of you out there listening, many of my clients have talked to me about, trying to convince ourselves to stop eating even when we are really, really urging for more food. And satisfaction is not a guaranteed outcome when you're in the midst of a binge or overeating when you're not hungry. You can't simply wait for it to appear because, if we think about it, that strategy hasn't worked at all in the past for any of us. And this leads us to a really important question. What does it really mean to satisfy oneself? At its core, to satisfy means to meet the expectations, needs, or desires of someone or something. It involves fulfilling a desire or need. These definitions really kind of offer intriguing insights. At first, there's the idea of fulfilling a desire or need. If your desire or need revolves around consuming excessive quantities of food or always wanting more, satisfaction will continue to elude you. How much is a lot of food, and how will you ever reach a point of satisfying an insatiable craving? The problem really lies in the concept of more. It's a perpetually moving target. You're focused on the next thing rather than relishing, enjoying, and savoring what's in front of you. And the other aspect is about meeting the expectations, needs, and desires of someone or something. And here's where it gets interesting, because you need to pinpoint what that something is. What is it that you are truly seeking to satisfy? And is it a physical or emotional desire? Okay, so we can kind of break this down a little bit. Most of the time, our binge eating or overeating does not start from a place of genuine physical hunger. So it's not about feeling physically full. Instead, it often boils down to wanting to feel a certain way, to experience pleasure, to enjoy positive emotions, to find comfort. We yearn for those good feelings, and you won't be satisfied until they materialize. So why don't they materialize as we hope? Why is satisfaction perpetually elusive? Which I now think I've used that word feels like 100 times. One reason is that we might not pay full attention to what we are eating, and we're not appreciating it. We're not savoring it. We're not being mindful. Pleasure does not magically occur just because you're eating. It happens when you genuinely experience the food, savor it, enjoy it, and maintain pleasurable thoughts about it while consuming it. So imagine watching a movie while constantly thinking about what you'll do after it ends. You finish the movie without fully absorbing its goodness, and you don't experience the anticipated emotions afterwards. Satisfaction eludes you because you didn't immerse yourself in the experience. Pleasure is not a passive event. Pleasure requires active engagement with the moment, savoring each bite, and indulging in the goodness of the food. Pleasure requires mindfulness. So let's talk about another issue. Many times you're waiting for satisfaction like it's going to magically arrive, perhaps with a sign that says, satisfied. But here's a problem. How much is enough to be satisfied? When you're physically full, it is clear. Satisfaction comes when you are no longer hungry. But when you're eating to fulfill an emotional desire, how much is enough? Is it 1 bite, 2 servings, an entire bag? The truth is there's no universal answer. It's a decision you must make for yourself. So consider this. People who take a small taste and feel satisfied made a choice. They decided that this amount was enough to fulfill their desire. A decision was made. This is something I learned about and started to implement a while ago. When I had an opportunity to consume something like a cookie or a dessert, I would take a pause before having a bite and intentionally ask myself, how much would most likely produce satisfaction for me? So for some things, it would be the whole portion. But for other things, I really had the thought it would just take 1 or 2 bites. And this is what I would then do. If my decision was 1 or 2 bites that I thought would most likely produce satisfaction, I had 1 or 2 bites. And surprise, surprise, I felt satisfied. If it was the whole portion that I thought would produce satisfaction, then the whole portion produced satisfaction. Here's, the crucial part of this. After consuming that whole dessert or the 2 bites of dessert, I didn't tell myself it was unsatisfying or not enough. I stuck to my thoughts of, I'm satisfied. I didn't crave more. Instead, I embraced it as perfect, precisely what I wanted, and thoroughly satisfying. I believed it because I savored the experience. I didn't rush it and didn't consume it with the expectation that it wouldn't be sufficient. I stayed really mindful. So in a way, I sort of declared myself satisfied. This is why all this thought work is so important. I declared myself satisfied. My desire for pleasure from 2 bites of dessert was satisfied because I chose to believe it was. When you're in a situation where you're unsatisfied, ask yourself why. Specifically, what wasn't satisfied and why are you choosing to think that way? Why do you believe you're not satisfied? Ultimately, satisfaction really hinges on your thoughts, not on food. You could be physically full and unsatisfied if you convince yourself that you're not. Conversely, you could eat a substantial amount of food and remain satisfied if you believe you are. Food doesn't generate feelings. You do. Your thoughts do. Therefore, the food won't inherently provide pleasure, won't provide good feelings, satisfaction, or comfort. Only your thoughts about the food do that. So when you're not experiencing satisfaction, consider what that means to you. What precisely isn't satisfying you and why? It all comes down to your thoughts and how you choose to perceive the situation. Are you telling yourself that you need more to be satisfied or that what you've had so far isn't enough? These beliefs can kind of keep you stuck in that endless cycle of chasing satisfaction through food. Here's the key takeaway. Satisfaction is a decision you make. Just as you decide how many vacation days are enough or how much time you spend on a hobby, you also have the power to choose how much food will be satisfying for you. It's not about the quantity. It's about your perspective and the things that you hold true for you. Don't spend your time waiting for a signal that says satisfied. Instead, practice savoring each bite, practice enjoying the moment, and practice on purpose you deciding when you've had enough. Embrace the pleasure that each bite brings and don't let it go unnoticed. When you make a conscious choice to be satisfied, you take control of your eating habits. Okay, so the next time you find yourself in the midst of a meal or a snack, remember that you have the power to decide when you're satisfied. It's not about the amount of food, it's about your mindset. Choose to savor each moment, and when you decide you've had enough, be content with that decision and follow it through. I hope this episode maybe sheds a little light on the concept of satisfaction and how it relates to our eating habits. Remember that each of us hold our own key to our own satisfaction. It's not dependent on the quantity of food we consume. Have a fulfilling and satisfying week ahead. Thank you for listening, and we will talk soon. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? go to heatherheinen.com. Heinen is spelled Heynen, and get in touch with questions on all things I offer, like online courses for overeating, weight loss, goal attainment, and also my coaching and counseling services. Just a reminder that this podcast represents my own opinions. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for educational and informational purposes only. Please consult your doctor or healthcare professional for any individual medical questions you may have.